the stop.
My goodness, what a save!
What a save! What a glove save there by...
What a stop! Looked like a sure goal.
You talk about an A+ save and maybe the save of the night.
Welcome to the Goalie Science Podcast, the podcast where we try to bridge the gap between goaltending science and peak performance. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Phillips, a physical therapist and goalie performance specialist. I'm joined as always by Dr. Ben Cernick and goalie coach Derek Bujan. Whether you're at home, at the rink, or in the car, grab a cup of your favorite beverage and let's drop the puck on this week's episode. Welcome back to the Goalie Science Podcast. It's your host, Jamie Phillips. I'm here with your host, Derek Bujan. We are the two of us again because Ben apparently is unavailable 7 days a week. So we plan our schedule around him. I know he's going to listen to the first 5 minutes, and he's one thing Ben loves is Ben slander. If you hear Derek coughing throughout the podcast, he's a cardio guy now. So after 14 years of no aerobic work, he's getting on the train and he's currently tasting iron in his lungs.
Yeah, this is day one of my fitness journey to get back into shredded wheat shape. And yeah, I decided to start with cardio right before we do a podcast. So I apologize to anybody who is listening to this and I either cough or go have to mute the mic. But I did 75 burpees and this body is not meant to get off the ground quickly. So I apologize for anybody who was at Good Life listening to me swear and say verbal diarrhea because I just hate myself.
Oh, you did that Good Life too? You didn't even do it at your own gym?
Oh, yeah. So I just look like the biggest loser too. But I mean, I am the biggest.
I love that that's a double entendre. And yeah. I don't know if that was intentional, but I feel that.
If they were casting, the NBC show is casting, I am looking.
Yeah. This summer I was running a lot. And I didn't run an official half marathon, but when I went out to the Boston for the AHA thing, I just woke up at 5 a.m. and I was like, I'm going to run half a marathon because you know what? If I'm going to do it, it's going to be in Boston. And that was when my cardio was good. Studying for my boards, I stopped running and I started running again last week. Goes quick. I was dying, and my wife is an incredible runner, and it makes me feel embarrassed. Like it's like how I would imagine it. Like if she was like, "Hey, Jamie, like I want to play hockey right now," and she can't skate or shoot, and then she's trying to score like on me. It's not gonna happen. Just like me trying to keep up with her when I'm running. It's not. I can do it for the first 2 minutes. And then my pace goes from a nice 6-minute mile, 7, 8, 9, and then it hovers around 9. But yeah, big cardio guys here on this podcast.
Apparently now, yeah, cardio is cardio.
Cardio is cardio, yes. To be fair though, it's weird. Like when I retired, I was a machine when I worked out. Like I was a psychopath. Worked out too much. Circuits. Could crush those. Powerful? No. Strong? No. Flexible? No. But did I have an engine? Oh yeah. But when I retired, I lost that drive to push myself to that point where the pain cave, it kind of went away. And so now when I have to do it, it's hard. It's not like, hey, Jamie, you're pushing yourself to get to the NHL. Now it's like, Jamie, you got to go to work in an hour. Like, what are you doing? So I struggle.
It's just so I'm not ugly. I just don't want to be so gross looking. So
the kids are calling that your winter arc.
My winter arc?
Yeah, apparently. So I don't. Do you have TikTok? You have TikTok?
I had it, but it was so confusing. Yeah,
you just scroll one direction.
It was so to me it was just such a sloppy app that I'm I think I had it for 2 weeks. If you look for Bujan goaltending, it's probably on there, but I don't know my login. I don't know my password, and I'm out of the TikTok world. Not a chance I'm coming back.
The young kids listening will know what your winter arc is, but I guess it's when you go ghost mode. You focus on yourself. You start a business, buy cryptocurrency, start working out, look better. But yeah, you're in the winter arc.
Do you feel old yet?
Oh man, the kids come in with this lingo, and I'm all, and I'm like, yeah, no cap, or we're cooked. The kids are cooked. Time to lock in.
Yeah, cooked. That's the new one in my house. Cooked. Yeah, no cap, bet. I'm like, I gotta like Urban Dictionary this stuff just to figure out what my kid is saying to me. And I felt old. What was the first time I felt old? Would have been like I remember the times there's a kid who's playing at Union. Actually, he's the captain of Union Division One team. His name's Cullen Ferguson, and I coached him in minor hockey. And I think he was at my training facility, and he said no cap to me once. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then he kind of explained it to me. That was the first time I felt old. I probably would have been, I don't know, 33 then. So now I'm an antique. I'm fossil. Like I'm turning to dust. And trust me, my son tells me that I'm dust all the time. So can we just speak English? Like, please, someone teach these children English?
It goes in waves, like we had, I'm sure our parents were in the area like, yo, that's sick. They're probably like, no, I don't.
That's true.
It goes in waves. I feel the time that I felt old was my first year PT school. I was almost briefly homeless, but one of my classmates took me in for 2 weeks. And whenever I'd say something like, hey, do you want to, go get Chipotle? Instead of saying yes, he would say bet. And he'd text that to me. And at one point I was like, and he'd also say it, but I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, what are you betting on? And he's like a couple of years younger than me. But I was like second oldest in my class. And he was like, yeah, bet. I'm like, what are you saying? He's like, oh, I'm just like agreeing with you. Oh, what the heck?
Just say okay.
They just say okay.
There's and it's 2 letters. That's 3. Like you're wasting time.
Or bro. Actually, bro gets me. I don't know. I don't love that one where I have all my players like, bro, what are you doing? Bro,
Oh, yeah.
all the time.
Well, like that's like the beauties. Like we've been talking about like the beauties forever.
The
Like,
hockey beauties. Yeah.
the hockey beauties. Like those are the guys that don't play. Don't be a beauty.
But now that we're sort of getting back on the hockey talk, official news out of Ontario. You broke it for us, but do you want to have the announcement?
Well, it's not official, but it is not official. Not official, but listen, I know I got the D's.
Not official. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. Yeah. But open borders is confirmed. 100%. Absolutely. Open borders confirmed in Ontario. And it's actually a Hockey Canada. So I just found this out actually today. In Ontario, only the OMHA and the Alliance were the last leagues that had residential rules in all of Canada. And I did not know that until today. And I think there's some sort of rules governing like Ottawa area where you can't leave Ottawa if you live in an Ottawa address. But I think if you live in Ottawa, and I might be wrong on this, but this is just what I was told today by someone in the OMHA, was that the Alliance and the OMHA were the last leagues that had residential rules, and that is gone. So
like GTHL kids could play anywhere within the GTHL, but could they jump leagues?
Well, they're
to anything but the OMHA Alliance.
Yeah, they had the GTHL league was open borders. Like if you had a GTHL, I think it's an LOR. There's some sort of postal code, and like I don't know what it is, but I think it's an LOR or some sort of postal code that if you had this postal code, you can go anywhere in Toronto. And I didn't have that postal code, so I couldn't. I was stuck.
Okay, well, I guess we all knew it was coming. It's one of those ones where, like, I guess what we're seeing is more and more, like, I don't know, you just even say that, reputable rumors. Rumors from credible sources tend to be coming true. You know, like NCAA, the CHL, the open borders, any sort of like random things here and there. Like it seems to be coming. I've heard so many rumors here about what's going to happen in the USHL, what's going to happen with Major Junior. I was talking today with a guy who owns a USPHL team. Just recently bought it. He's like, yeah, probably not the best time to purchase a tier 3 junior hockey league. or junior hockey team, but things like the NAHL is going to be in a world of hurt because that was a league that produced a good number of Division I players, and with with accepting major junior into the NCAA eligibility rules, a lot of that league now becomes primarily a Division III league, and that really hurts the identity of a league like that. So it's like, what in the world is going to happen? Who knows?
It's crazy that, like, obviously nothing is connected here, but it's just crazy that Ontario is going open borders, which is going to be absolute chaos. And the NCAA has changed their CHL all within a month of each other. Like, it's just like for guys trying to navigate the landscape, like it's wonderful. It's different because, like, there's lots of agents out there, and then we also like advise and try to advise on past experiences. And I have guys where they ask me, and I honestly, my answer is like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know what you should do. I don't know where you should go. And that's never been something that I've had to say before. Like, I've just always had an idea and a plan A and a plan B for a lot of the guys that I train. And now it's like, I don't know. Like, we'll figure it out as we go, and it might be a mess and we might make mistakes, which is a nice segue. But it is what it is. And everybody's learning the new system at the same time. So everybody's going to be making mistakes and trying to do what they think is best. But the second we know the game, they're going to change the rules. And then we're going to learn things, and it's going to be like, oh man, I wish I thought of that. But there's people out there that are really smart, and they're going to have these ideas, and they're going to be very good ideas. And then I'm going to sit back here and be like, man, I got to have better ideas because my ideas aren't as smart as those guys' ideas.
And the biggest thing I love with this is the people at the top that are the people at the top of the leagues, the owners of teams, the commissioners of different leagues, they have no idea what's happening. Like, they are playing it one day at a time. So as little people here that are trying to help our athletes make the best decisions for themselves and their careers, like, we definitely don't know. And I said the same thing. I've said it so many times. I went from having kids where it's like, hey, I want you to, this is kind of your plan. We're going to go play junior A here. Then hopefully go get you to the null, and then let's get you to the USHL. That's kind of the game plan. Now it's like, I guess we'll try to go to the O. Like, I don't know. I just probably maybe don't go to the USHL because I don't know what the structure is going to look like next year and in 3 years. Like, who knows? And so it's so confusing. And now it's just like, you went from like kids saying like, hey, like, I got invited to this, an OHL goalie combine or all these things. Like, should I go? And before it's like, well, you can, but like, where you're going to college, where now it's, yeah, you got to go. You got to go do these things and get exposure to, I'm on the American side of things, get exposure to, leagues that didn't heavily recruit, obviously Little Caesars and stuff have a lot of eyes in certain teams, but like for the does on the west side of Michigan, like, not a lot of major junior teams are coming this way unless we're doing tournaments. And now it's changing because I went from not seeing a single OHL scout in the building, and over the last 2 weeks I've started to see a few, and it's weird to see that again. It's like, what country am I in? But you had said something, mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. We make mistakes. Well, actually, I don't make mistakes anymore, but I used to make mistakes. We were talking about things like before the show, like what we want to talk about. I obviously wanted to talk more about the NCAA and Major Junior. I just have episode part 7. Derek wanted to talk about open borders, part 7. Ben was going to complain about something, anyways.
Ben took the option, and shocker, he's not here. And
Ben was gonna say that all kids should be wearing Crocs with Lightning McQueen pins on them to practice. Actually, before we get into mistakes we made as coaching, my dad was in town this week and helped me take apart a rapid shot so I could build the clinic. And the clinic is at the rink, and the U18 team was coming in, and my dad goes, "Oh, those are sharp dressed young men," and they were wearing suits. And I was like, "Dad, we got to get you on the pod here because he was saying the same, and this was completely unsolicited. He was saying the same thing, and I said we go back and forth on the pod, and Ben and Booge give me a hard time because I'm a believer in wearing, like professional quote unquote clothes, like with something like a collared shirt, polo, whatever. And he's like, I 100% agree. He's like, it builds that camaraderie, that identity, and it shows intention that like when you're coming to the rink, you're not just showing up to show up. Like there's purpose and meaning for what you're showing up. He's like, when I was having my athletes kayak, he's like, I made sure they were wearing a collared shirt. He said, even when I was coaching basketball, high school basketball, same thing. Kids wearing shirts. And I was like, yes, come on the pod. Defend me, Dad. Dad, I need you. My dad could beat up your dad.
No, I like you're feeding your dad a false bill of goods here because I just disagreed at 9 years old and 10 years old. Like if you're U15, U16, U18, and you're going and you are having face-to-face discussions with scouts and recruiters, and you're wearing Crocs or you're wearing jogging pants, then you're an idiot. And I said that on pod last week. But at 9 years old, 10 years old, like I feel like we still want to make it fun. And you're right. Like when I was young and I made my first rep team, like one of the biggest things I was excited about was like, oh, I got to wear a suit. I got to wear a tie. Like that was cool for a week. And then it was like, my tie's got McDonald's sauce on it and my tie is wrapped around my shoes, and like it was a disaster. So we do want to make sure that we want to keep kids in the game. That's just another thing that we can avoid at 9 and 10 years old. But yeah, you're right, 100%. That when
I never once said suits. I said you have your team, your game day thing, whether that's a little tracksuit with a team issued like your game day suit that you wear with your team that shows that collective, that brotherhood or sisterhood that you're going to battle with your team.
What's wrong with a team sweater like this, or like they wear their tracksuit jacket if it's got the team logo?
Oh, I said I don't mind. I like when there's a little bit when there's intention to it, and I think like wearing a golf shirt or a polo, especially if it's team issued, is like it's just putting on a t-shirt. You just put on a t-shirt, like it's the same thing. So if it's a team issued thing, it's perfect. And that was just my argument. Where Debbie Downer Ben is gonna say that anything that isn't letting kids live young, wild, and free is not fun and unprofessional.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong. If he's not wrong, and I'm definitely not wrong. So
I have been getting some funny DMs. I got some funny DMs from different coaches, chirping me about the thing. Like they'll send like when teams do their pregame like entry or pregame walk in, and they do the pictures and like the outfits. They're like, is this what you want our 9-year-olds wearing and stuff like that? So I got a good kick out of that. But anyways, long story long, mistakes we made as coaching. I'm curious to know yours because a lot of them you had to have made with me as a goalie.
yeah, that's why you
which is
sure.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But I'll throw it over to you if you like right off the top of your head. I don't want to say the biggest mistake, but just like what's the first one that comes to mind where you go, dang, I wish I didn't do that, or I wish I could have changed that.
And I still think like this is still a struggle for like not for me so much because honestly, like I don't care. I don't care what people say. Like I'm just gonna do what I want to do, what I think is the best for the athlete anyway. But is like when we talked about it, I think either on Instagram or in one of the pods, but like coaching young kids like we watch the NHL. So with you at like 13 years old, we did a ton of blocking, a ton of knee walks, a ton of like getting into position.
Swedish duck walks.
Yeah, that actually turned into something later on. But
What's crazy is because now that's what we all do.
yeah, but it was taking a young athlete and trying to coach them like we watched the NHL. And that was something that we did. And then it became, okay, we have to now catch up on the skills because we did so much of get in position and drop and block. And the game was a little bit different back then, but it was it was probably something that contributed to you not being an elite skater, kind of like another goalie in the NHL that we could talk about all the time. But that is number one, the big mistake I made when I was young was trying to coach young athletes like I was watching in the NHL and not understanding the steps they needed to take in between to get to that spot. So that was definitely like me and you, a lot of our summers were, let's try this. Like,
Yeah.
this summer, let's try working on this. And it was a lot of trial and error. And we found a little bit of magic in there, but it was a lot of like going back and looking at a lot of like, hey, let's throw a bunch of stuff on the wall and see what works.
Yes, which is okay. And I think, well, basically all that stuff and experimenting contributed to, and the way that you coach contributed to my abilities to, one, understand the game and understand my game and my ability to coach now, which is why I think I'm significantly better coach than I am, was a player. Goalie coaching was different though. Like, it wasn't new. Like, goalie coaching was around, but a lot of the critical thinking and analysis wasn't what it is today. Like, today, obviously our podcast is called Goalie Science, but like the science-y part of goaltending is way more known, where before it was kind of, like you said, like, it's kind of like, let's just try this. The VH came along. We had to try that. The RVH came along. We had to try that. I remember power pushing came along when I was playing rep hockey. Like, the thought, now that's the only thing kids can do. Can't T-push or shuffle, but boy, can they power push. Like, so many things. Like, there was just this period of time where so many things, like the evolution of goalie pads. We went, my first pair of pads was a CCM Heatons, and then into some Bodems. I thought those Bodems were so cool because they were butterfly pads. The term doesn't exist. Every pad is a butterfly pad now. So there were so many, evolutions and inventions and creations in that time that I think everyone was kind of figuring out, which is also like, if you look at goaltending between that period, like we look at like the Francois Allaire being like the first main goalie coach, his style taking off. But we look at that period of time and we talked about the hybrid goalie. Basically, we just had a whole bunch of styles that we didn't really know what was the best, but we just had good goalies that were good at stopping pucks. And then it started to all come together and regress towards the mean, which is today's current style of goaltending that everyone plays. Obviously some are better skaters, some are taller, some are more flexible, but the general technique and consensus is the same. And it took that 20-year gap period to create that. And so I think I think that, yes, we probably, knowing what we know now, we should have worked on more skills, but we also were trying to figure things out as they were coming along and being invented. So I don't it's crazy.
Like you said, something really important there was there were so many new things coming out, but a lot of those things were just being defined. Like, they weren't new. They were just now given a name and given specificity, like box control. Like, box control was this big invention of goaltending. No, box control has been around forever. Like, it's just positioning. It's understanding how the net changes sizes. And basically, box control is about staying square. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, box control is about squareness and protecting the net in front of you, understanding how the net size changes. Yeah. But it wasn't box control until somebody came along and named it. Right? Same with head trajectory.
Before that, it was cutting down. Yeah, I was good at head trajectory. Before that, it was just cutting down the angle.
Yeah, it was coming out, make yourself big, cut out the angle. Right. And then it was head trajectory. When head trajectory, to simplify, is getting our eyes in a straight line with the puck. But somebody came along, they defined it, they kind of sort of chin it, overcomplicated it, and then used that to kind of build a business. That's what it is. And that's why now there's so many different ideas in goaltending. They were always been around. It's just somebody came around, defined it, gave it a name, gave it something specific, and then guys kind of took that and ran with it. It's like, this is what I teach. This is what I teach. This is what I teach. Right back 15 years ago, maybe a little more now, 20 years ago, I remember goalies contacting me and asking like, do you teach the butterfly style or do you teach hybrid? Because I'm a hybrid goalie and I don't want to come get coached by you if you're a butterfly coach. I'm like, okay. Like, I think now we coach more a style than we actually coach puck stopping. And that is something like I think might come back in the next couple of years, is we got to teach more puck stopping ability than we do everything else.
Yeah, I think as a goalie community as a whole, I think you're pretty accurate with that. We still are teaching a little bit more of style. Like, a lot of us have this idea of what we want our goalies to play like, instead of being like, hey, like, you know, Aiden Hill isn't going to play like Andre Vasilevsky, so Aiden Hill's really good at stopping pucks and getting in position and managing his depth. So why are we going to make him try to, super aggressive split saves? Why are we trying to make Jamie Phillips play like Eric Comrie? The same. And I joke about that, but it's the reality of it. What's the saying? You can't fit a round square peg in a round hole in a square peg. I always mess that one up, but it is that. And so hopefully, I do think that's why like North American goalies kind of have been, it's not to say lagging behind, because the numbers like wouldn't show it, but as the general consensus would say that it's lagging behind, and I do agree that, but
I don't think North American goalies are lagging behind. I think right now we don't have the best goalies in the world. But I think
they're just not dominating.
Yeah, the median is way higher. Like, Ben went on a rant about junior C goalies, I don't know, in episode 60 or something. And back to like what I was talking about, we teach a style, or we teach a system or whatever, but we don't teach puck stopping ability. Because I can go and watch a junior C hockey game, which is, junior C is what it is. It's a competitive league for guys at that age between 16 and 20, but it's not a league where guys are going to go and play professional hockey after. The guys want to love playing, and they're good goalies and they play. But the goaltending in junior C hockey is good. Like, it's really good goaltending. And they all can do RVHs, power pushes, like cutting. They all have good head trajectory. They understand box control. But those guys can't stop the puck. Like, they can't go and jump up into junior B or junior A and make saves. Because there's so many guys out there that we've coached technique and structure, where we forgot to coach their ability to stop the puck. And they just get beat clean on shots, and they go up, and the game's a little bit faster, and the release is a little bit quicker, and their exposure's not there, and they just can't make saves. And I think that is a perfect example of when I say is like, we teach technique and structure and a system, but we don't. Sometimes I think as coaches, we forget to teach puck stopping ability.
I would agree. That's pretty similar to what my first mistake would be, and it's not. I think the good news is having you and other goalie coaches that I talk to consistently. Like, when I first started goalie coaching full time, hopefully I was able to address that, where I definitely was able to identify, like, when I got to Tech, I had 3 different goalies style wise, and I knew like we're not going to all play the same. But the first mistake, and this is one that I have self-corrected, and it's one I continually have to catch myself, is I need to filter, and not in a negative way, but I need to filter. I need to simplify my thoughts into what I tell a goalie, regardless of their skill, like regardless of their age. My brain goes a billion miles an hour. I'm very analytical. I one of my strong suits was I was ability to read the play, and like I was usually a couple steps ahead. And I can't expect all my goalies to see the game the same way that I saw the game. And so when I'm talking to someone, I can't expect them to say like, hey, your foot is a little bit off angle here and it's causing you to rotate, blah, 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 blah. I need to be like, hey, when you step out, try having your foot slightly forward. And then they do it. I mean, how'd that feel? Do you know why? This is why. And simplify it. And that way they understand it, because in my brains, or someone can explain a very difficult concept to me and I'm going to get it because my brain works like that. But I can't expect my 14-year-olds or my 12-year-olds to think that way. And that's not fair of me to do that. And it would do a disservice if I was like, how did you not see that 3-on-2 develop into this? Everyone knew that was going to, no, like you don't. It's so that's something that I continually have to, I definitely fixed early on. And it's one I still catch myself, but it's simplifying that and making sure that what I say to the goalies is the simplest possible term. And then once they get it, we can slowly become more detailed. And then it actually comes full circle where I just start saying less and less. The better my goalies get, I just start saying, I just head. Like they know. I just say head. All right, good, yeah.
And that's a for coaches, like that's a huge skill, is how you communicate and simplify the message. And that's like one thing I learned. So like my goalie coach mentor would have been probably Ben Vanderpook, who's with the Nashville Predators now. I would go and work with him, and I always thought I was a good communicator and I was able to explain things. And then I would work with him, and the way he was able to simplify the message blew me away. And I'm like, I was so taken aback at how simple he made everything seem to the goalies and to me, when I thought the message I was sending was already simple, that he just showed me and taught me that I had to be better at simplifying that message. And that's something like now, like, is a big skill for me, because I'll get new goalies that come from other places, and I have a good way of communicating and being like, listen, this is as easy as I can say it. Your hands just have to move to the puck. Like, don't worry about your stance. Don't worry about where your glove's holding. Don't worry about how all the tension. Don't worry about, like, it's got to be on this angle. It's got to be your stick size you have to take half an inch off your stick. Just like, watch the puck off the blade, and the first movement of the glove has to go to where the puck is going. And I'll take guys and girls who cannot catch pucks, and within 3 or 4 sessions, they're catching pucks. And it's because I've developed that ability to simplify my message so they understand what they need to do. And like any goalie coach who's coming up, like, that's the worst thing. And you know what it is? Like, honestly, at the beginning, when you first come in and start coaching, and you probably do the same thing, is there's a little bit of like, what's that called when you feel like you're a fake?
Oh, imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah. There's imposter syndrome. And I had that when I was young for so long, because I was a guy that never played at a high enough level where I felt confident enough to walk into a room full of bona fide goalie coaches and feel like I was at the level to be in that room. It took me a little bit of time when I started realizing, like, man, what this guy's saying is kind of whacked, and like, I think my message is better. And then you start to develop that confidence. But when your confidence is a little bit lower, when you're first starting to coach, you kind of overtalk and you overcomplicate things to try to mask maybe some of your insecurities. And that was something that I did definitely when I was younger. And now, like I said earlier, is like, I'm pretty confident in what I know. I'm pretty confident in my ability to develop goalies, and I can simplify it because I don't care how complicated other guys make it. I think one of my biggest skills is that I'm able to simplify it.
I would agree that that is one of your biggest skills. Your communication. I mean, that's. I also it is sound like, I guess it doesn't sound crazy, but because it's true. Someone listening that might sound crazy, but you've produced a lot of good goalies, but you've also produced a lot of good goalie coaches. And I think that's something that you should be very proud of, because, we talk about how we want our goalies to be able to coach, but like a lot of that you've produced a lot of good goalie coaches that are able to understand the game and teach the game to a goal. And I think like that is why one of, if not the biggest impact that you've had on so many players. They all, we all end up retiring at some point, and some of us get into coaching and others don't. But when you look at it, like, I don't think there's anyone that's produced as many quality goalie coaches as you have. And so again, it comes from communicating and simplifying and making sure, and this is the one thing that I definitely have taken from you and added into my coaching style, is making sure that the goalies understand why we do everything and how it's going to impact. And like the best way to do it, and if you're a goalie coach listening and you're curious, like our coaching styles and stuff, is for me, I always try to answer a goalie's question with a question. They'll be like, "How come I'm getting beat this time?" Like, "Well, tell me what you think." Then they'll say it, and they're like, and then it'd be like, "Okay, well, what would happen if you tried this?" And then they'll give me something, and they're, "Okay, what would happen if?" And then you help guide them to find that answer, so they understand and allows them to think and process. Where I get so many goalies that have just been told what to do with no rhyme or reason. The same thing. It's just like the biggest one I get is sliding to the post every single time. And I was working on it this morning, and a guy was sliding. Well, actually, it was funny. He went to a camp, like a showcase camp, and they were doing like one-timers or something from the dot. And like he was told he had to slide to the post. And yes, yeah, my reaction exactly. And so I was just like, so you're talking about why? And the reason he just was like, well, the first you just said, because I want you to. I'm like, that's usually never a good sign. And then I asked them, because he texted me this, and I said, ask him the next day, like to dig deeper. And his solution was, well, when you hit the post, you're going to be in good position for your rebound and you have control. And that drives me nuts. There's nothing worse than you're preparing for the second and third shot that doesn't exist because the puck already is in the net. But yeah, sorry, I went on a tangent there. But I think, yeah, I would attribute your ability to teach and coach goalies allows so many other goalies to be adequate to very good goalie coaches.
And that makes me feel really, really good that you say that, because that is the goal. Like, you moved away at 17 years old. You went to Pembroke, Ontario. You guys didn't have a full-time goalie coach. I came up one weekend. When I came up, I played terrible. I felt like it was all my fault. It was a horrible weekend. But that's kind of the reality of junior hockey in kind of Canada, is like, nowadays there is some sort of goalie support, but you could be moving away, and depending on what league you're playing in, you may have a goalie coach that you see 2 or 3 times a year, or you have a guy that watches video with you, but you have to be able to self-critique and take ownership over your own game and kind of be your own goalie coach. And if you don't understand what me, you, Ben, or whoever you're working with is trying to get you to understand and trying to help you develop and think the game, then how are you supposed to be able to self-diagnose or self-critique? Like, that is the biggest thing. And you're right. Like, I have even some of the ones coming up now, like a lot of my guys that are playing junior B, like they'll run some sessions for me and I'll watch and I'll be like, man, these guys get it. Like, these guys are very good. And Charlotte Payne, who we talked about she's going to Division I next year to play NCAA, and she's been doing some coaching, and she's a phenomenal goalie coach, like phenomenal goalie coach. So that is I'm super, super happy that you said that.
Yeah. It fires me up too when my goal, like when I ask, when goalie, they give up a goal, and I have one goalie, U14, good goalie. He gives up a goal, and I don't really even have to. The only time we have discussions about what to do is when he asks me, because then I know he's either frustrated. He's frustrated, and he's just like, tell me what to do, or he genuinely doesn't know. Because usually he gives up a goal, and I go, what happened? And he tells me exactly what happened. We go, yep, let's run it back. And so, like, someone watching might be like, this guy's a terrible coach. But it also took a very long time. It took a year and a half of coaching 2 to 3 times a week to get him to that level and he's a smart kid in general to be able to think and process like that. But it's great when I can just ask, be like, tell me, like, walk me through it. And they walk it, bang, 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 bang. Or they even see things that I don't see. And I'm like, like, I missed that. Like, great. Like, boom. Absolutely. That's what I want. And I think, I don't know if this, I don't know if this one was a mistake for me, because I think if it was, I tried to nip it in the bud early. But I think a lot of when we talk about like overcoaching and being over analytical, I think a lot of it comes down to ego, where we just want to show how smart we are And, we want, we coaches and we run businesses and there's a lot of goalie coaches and we want the best goalies and we just want to show, how awesome we are and how good at goalie coaching we are. And so if I come out and be like, there's this technical blah, 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 it sounds really cool. Then everyone's going to be like, wow. And you think you're going to impress everyone with this. And I don't, I probably did. I'm assuming that everyone does at some time because you just want, the imposter syndrome or your ego or you're self-conscious. Like I'm assuming I did too. And then it just like, after time, you realize, it's being a coach is not about me. And I think that that's important for a lot of people to remember, especially in like the social media age of things, like where we do have to run business. We have to promote ourselves. We have to promote our goalies because we need to feed our families and keep the lights on. But it's not about us. It's about our athletes. And the best example I always give is um, the supplement company First Form. They reached out to do some sort of like athlete sponsorship thing. And it was kind of like a contest and it was for a lot of money and it would have been sweet. And the one thing that the person I was talking with, they're like, we just want you to post more about you. Like, what are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And I just said like, okay, I'll try. And it's not that I'm afraid to film myself or do these things, but it's not about me. Like I post this content to help others, but it's more like I just want my goalies to be the best goalies that they can be. Like that's it. Like I'm not out there trying to sell beauty products and talk about how awesome I am so I can get a reality TV show. The better my goalies are and the better they do, the happier I am. And that's what I want to carry me, not how sweet my Instagram profile is. But again, you learn that early on, and then that's when you start to like make those changes in terms of simplifying how you talk and trying not to impress everyone, or when you're talking to parents, since you're not like, oh, blah, 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 little Jimmy needs to do this. Be like, yeah, let's simplify, simplify, simplify.
And I just like when you were talking on your 47-minute rant there.
Oh, I love rats.
I was thinking of like another mistake, that same thing I corrected, is when we first start, we try and coach everybody who comes in. Like everybody who contacts you, you want to coach them, you want to coach them, you want to coach them. Like you want to build your clientele. You'll take everybody. And I used to do that. I used to try to recruit goalies to come. Like that was the dumbest thing I ever did, was trying to recruit kids to come and train with me. Because if you're recruiting a kid to come train with you and they do come, then that kid's never going to have loyalty because they want whoever they're already coaching to come with you. So like now I just try to organically get kids. But when I started getting rid of kids I didn't enjoy coaching, I became a better coach. So like high level guys that I didn't have a good fit with, or I didn't enjoy coaching, or were just disruptive in a class or not good people. And like I have a perfect example of a guy who was a very high OHL draft pick, skated with me for about 6 months, skated with other OHL draft picks, and was just like kind of a dick and was disruptive and selfish in the class, and it was about him. Like I just got rid of him and just said, hey, like this isn't working. Like it's not a good fit. I don't think you should continue training here. And here's a couple guys I think you should go to. And I actually sent him to my number one competitor, and he went there and he had a decent junior career. And I think he's still playing U Sport. But for any of those guys out there that are starting, like, yeah, you gotta bring in people to pay the bills. But when you enjoy coaching the kids that you have, you're going to be a better coach. You're going to build better relationships. And when you build a better relationship with the athlete, you're going to be a better coach to that athlete. And that was something like it took me a while to figure that out. But now I keep my circle pretty small with who I coach, and it makes coaching a lot more fun.
I agree. One thing that wasn't a mistake for me necessarily, but I know I've talked to a few goalie coaches that asked me about this, is they getting upset when a goalie leaves and goes to a different coach. For me, because we've had this conversation many times, even prior to me goalie coaching. You know, I I the goal exactly what you just said, but the goalies that want to train, like I try to meet every goalie where they're at. I do try to tailor my coaching style depending, because not everyone responds to, you know, negative feedback. Some people only respond to positive feedback and vice versa. And so I do tailor that. But some you're not always going to gel with every goalie, and they're not always going to gel with you. And so I want the best for every kid. And so if they don't feel like I'm going to provide that with them, I want them to go somewhere else, because I want them to go get where they're most comfortable and they feel better. And that doesn't offend me, because the goalies that respond well and trust me and train with me consistently, they're the ones that I want to train with. And they're like you said, it's the most enjoyable, and it's not a chore to wake up and to, like, you know, to push them or to give them a little bit of, negative feedback that make, spark a fire under them or whatever it is. And so unfortunately, I never had that issue, but I know that there are a lot of coaches that I've talked to that get upset when goalies go to competitors or other goalie coaches, or even like get a little jealous when they go and train with their in-season goalie coaches who's telling them different things. And for me, that's just one of those ones where it's try to have communication with other teams, with the goalie coach, the team goalie coach that my athletes with, as well as having discussions. Be like, well, let's talk about why they want that. Is that something that we can add? Is that something that makes sense? Then let's try it. Let's tweak it. Let's play with it. Like, get those different opinions.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one, because for me, like a lot of my ability to really coach well is because I developed good relationships. So like I have had a couple that have left and gone somewhere else, and I've felt like hurt, I would say. Um, but it's because there was no communication going from athlete to me. Like it was just, you'd see a video on the internet, or you would hear from another player, hey, I saw them down training here. There was no communication of, if you want to skate somewhere else because maybe they have a different setup at the facility, or they have a connection with a team that you want to try out for, or you just want to skate with a buddy of yours who skates with them and you guys are skating together. There's nothing that says that you can't, and you just have that conversation with your goalie coach, because communication does have to go both ways. And I found like I'm demanding, and I treat all my guys as kind of like, well, at first it was like a little brother, but now I'm so damn old and getting gray that it's like they're all like my sons or my nephews now. And it's tough love, tough love with everybody. And they know that coming in. And if they stay with me, they know they're going to get tough love. But I mean, I can understand. I have some guys where, 8 years of tough love from Booge kind of grinds them a little bit. And when they get to like 20 years old, it's like, okay, I need like a little bit of a breather from them. But my thing is, I tell the parents at 10, 11, it's like, my job is to keep your kid playing hockey at the highest level they can, and keep them out of jail until they're 20 years old. That's what I want. I want them to play hockey till they're 20 and keep them out of trouble as best as I can, in conjunction with you as a parent. Because it's not our job to raise them, but it is our job to try and give them motivation and give them something to harness or funnel their energy. And hey, if a kid has a training session on a Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, and on the Saturday night, he's got to make a decision to go to a bush party or go to bed because he's got to train and he wants to get better. That one decision of what to do, go to bed on Saturday at 10 o'clock or go to a bush party and starts at 3 a.m. I want our guys choosing to go to bed at 10 o'clock after watching the Leafs win.
That's good. Maybe it's just, you've been coaching a lot longer than me, so maybe it's just my, being still kind of green to it, especially the private side of coaching. That I could see that, especially if you've developed long-term relationships and they leave, that does make sense. I'm trying to think.
When
Any other?
you get your clinic, and you're starting to do stuff where people come to you, and it's not like your association kind of thing, you'll get scorned and you'll get butthurt, and that'll be okay. And because you know what, honestly though, like if you have an athlete that you've gone through the trenches with, and like you've seen them cry, you've seen them succeed, you've seen them fail, like you are invested in them as a person and as an athlete, and you've had that relationship. So yeah, it does hurt a little bit if they do go. And if they did it, if that didn't hurt, then you didn't care. Like you didn't invest in them. If it doesn't bother you, then you didn't care. And then you didn't do a good enough job because you should care.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Something up, I see that.
Be better
Yeah.
and develop better relationships, Jamie. And when I leave you to go to another goalie science podcast, you better be butthurt and sad that I left you.
Derek, we all know there's only one goalie science podcast, and there only ever will be, because
Guy on this.
the three of us, we have 7 degrees.
This is where I was going. 0 degrees. From Mohawk College that I didn't even go and get. So I have 0 diplomas.
Yeah, so big science pod. Trying to think if there was any other meet.
Let's end with the smartest thing you ever did with coaching, and let's end with that as a good thing.
The smartest thing.
I'll go first.
Yeah, you go first.
The best thing, and I would suggest this to any goalie coach who's just getting into hockey, and this was by far the best decision I made, was when I stopped playing. I did the goalie coach thing with a team for 2 years. Plus, I was doing the private goalie coaching. And it wasn't until I became a head coach and learned how to actually coach a hockey team that my goalie coaching got much better. And I think anybody who is serious about coaching goalies should get on a bench, whether it's a head coach or an assistant coach, and coach for at least 3 years. You will learn so much more about hockey that you'll be able to communicate that to your goalies. And that was the best thing I ever did as a coach, was pull away from the goalie coaching side for probably about 5 years. And yeah, you know what? It did hurt my business financially because I was more busy and I couldn't commit to doing as many hours in privates and lessons like that. So yeah, my goalie count went down, but at the end of the day, coming out of that, I was much more prepared and such a better goalie coach at the end of the day, just from being on the bench for 5 years out of wherever I was. Actually, it's more than that. It's probably like 12 years. So that is something I think everybody should do.
Yeah, I like that. I'm trying to think of the best thing. I don't know if I could pinpoint like a best thing or a change that I made. The one I think like the biggest thing that I would say, like when people ask, like, how can I improve? How can I be a better goalie coach? Or it's like, do you genuinely care about your athletes? Like, do you care about them on more than like a goalie level? Like, are you willing to do like, to stay out after with them? Are you willing, I mean, safe sport obviously has different rules, but are you willing to pick them up and take them to practice because they don't have a ride? Like, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to go out of your way and buy new pegs for their nets so that they can push off because now they're strong enough to push off the post? Like little things like that. That's what matters the most, because that helps foster that connection that we're trying to have with our athletes, is genuinely caring and not treating them as like as a number or as just another goalie that's coming through as a client. Like, do you care about your athletes and are you willing to go the extra mile for them? I think that's the biggest thing that I haven't really learned, but something I identified. Like, even my wife's like, you gotta stop thinking about things. Like, I'm up all night trying to think about one goalie I have playing at Pee Wee. And like, how can I fix their shuffles? Like, what can I do to just adjust their shuffles? I just want them to shuffle better. And like that kind of like that obsession and that dedication to each one of them. And I think that goes a long way. And I'm gonna say it is exhausting and it can be overwhelming, but to genuinely care is probably the biggest thing that I found.
You know what? Biggest mistake. I don't think this is us. But biggest mistake I think goalie coaches make, especially like privatized goalie coaching, they don't go and watch games. You get into the clinic, you train your kid at the clinic or at the rink, and you never go and watch them play. if you're that goalie coach that I'm explaining right now, get your ass to the rink. Like, get to the rink and watch your goalies because that is going to make you a better goalie coach.
Even if you, like, let's just say you have a roster of 30 consistent goalies, it's a lot. If you can go and watch one game a month or even one game every 2 months, it goes a long way because you're going to see things and you're going to be like, oh my God, oh my no, oh Lord.
And streaming doesn't count, guys. Like, it's not the same. It's not the same. Like, wherever the camera is, and like you don't see angles, you don't see a lot of stuff. Like, it's good. It's better than it was when you were playing. I remember trying to watch some of your games, even in like ECHL when you're playing, and the cameras were awful. But it's now like Live Barn and whatever you guys have, like in the States, like we have Live Barn up here. It's good,
I burn too.
but it's
Actually, it's horrible.
it's not. Yeah, it's okay.
We're not going to get a LiveBarn sponsorship. I've slandered them before.
Yeah.
I'm sponsored by XBot Go. Use promo code J Phillips for 20% off. It's actually really good for tracking. But yeah, I agree. Just going and watching games. No. You're at the rink a lot because of Weston. I'm at the rink a lot because director of goaltending. My clinic is also at the rink. And I drag my wife out to watch hockey, and she hates it. But it is good to see our goalies in action, and that I would agree with that one. I didn't think of that. That's a good point. We did it last week. Any parting shots?
Parting shots. Well, we didn't talk about open borders, which I just love because it gives me so much communication with parents in my area for the whole week. The parting shots, other than the release I saw today, where the Canadian Four Nations goalies of Bennington and Aiden Hill are kind of locked in. I am not a Jordan Bennington fan. Oh my God, I am not a fan of his. And I don't understand. I do kind of understand, but I don't understand that right now Cam Talbot is not in the discussion. Like, Cam Talbot is getting leaked. Yeah. Cam Talbot is having an unbelievable year in Detroit. His numbers, his standard goalie numbers are off the charts. The one thing about Cam Talbot is he struggled after the holidays, and this tournament is being in February, so maybe that is something that there. But if you're picking the best guy having the best season right now, how's Cam Talbot not in the discussion? I'm sorry. That's my job.
That's a good parting shot. I should have prepared. I actually had a bunch of parting shots. I was going to talk about goal pegs because that's actually my current obsession. I've spent way too much money on different pegs, and I found a pair that's really good. They are drill-in pegs, so it's not super conducive for everyone, but it's actually there's my parting shot would be put pressure on your organizations to invest in good pegs. I wrote a proposal it was submitted to the owners of Fox, where it's then going to be submitted to all the tier 1 owners in Michigan before it goes to like MAHA, so Michigan Amateur Hockey Association, before USA Hockey. Will it fall on deaf ears? Yeah, probably. There's a lot of things to fight for, but if there's one thing that I'm going to fight for all of goaltending, it's to have the bare minimum of equipment required, and that includes pegs. And it frustrates me to no end when we sit in all these hockey meetings, with official hockey meetings and unofficial hockey meetings, and we complain and wonder, and like, what are the Europeans doing, and all these different things, and blah, 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 blah. And one of the things that they do in Sweden and Finland, and they've mandated good pegs across the board, starting at U12 and up at all rinks. And it's like a small thing that goes a long way, and we don't do it here. And we complain about how we're not keeping up with the Swedes and the Finns. Yet we refuse to implement pegs. Yet every goalie coach has nice fancy pegs in their bag, as they should, and we train with them, and we teach our goalies to drive off the posts and be strong in the post. And then it comes to the game, and then we can't use the post. So what's the point? There's no scoreboard in training. And then we actually need to use the post when it matters. Everything goes out the window, and they have to use a whole new style and technique. So hopefully,
you know what?
yeah.
Coaches and players are just as frustrated as goalies are with the shit bags.
It ruins the game. Like when we talk about watching hockey games. This is easily the most minor hockey I've watched in my life this year. And that's why I got those pegs, and I asked the owners of Fox to buy those pegs for the team, because I came in the first weekend, each game the net had come off like at least 10 times each game. And I was like, this is just not even fun to watch. It's terrible. It's just not even an enjoyable hockey game because the net's always off, let alone the goalie side of it. So put some pressure, ask, we'll see. Hopefully the proposal turns into something bigger. It might even turn into, there's a petition, don't worry, I'll promote it. But it's something that I am a strong believer in, that, like, we talked about, we're coaching. We can't complain about coaches if we're not willing to coach. We can't complain about being inferior to other nations with goalie stuff if we're not willing to do the bare minimum for our goalies. So I'm going out of my way, spending tons of money, my own money, to make sure the rink that I'm at always has pegs available for our goalies, regardless of the level they play. And that's my price shot.
Yeah, that's a good one. And your proposal is very, very well done too. It really was. And there's a lot of stuff in that proposal that you wrote that when I read back, I'm like, I never thought of some of this stuff. So it was very well done. So rock on to good pegs, because crappy pegs ruin hockey.
They really do. And perfect. Once that proposal's out, if anyone wants to talk about that and have something similar, especially if it goes through, just reach out to me and via email. My Instagram is just too much. Via email at jamie@elitegoaliemethod.com. I don't mind sharing that proposal and talking a little bit so that you can tweak it to send to your organization, so that we can push this forward and make goaltending great again. Well, yeah, never great. Yeah, I would say like early use.
We think certain things are great, and then Ben tells us we're wrong, because Patrick Waugh is just not as good as we remember, apparently. So I don't even know if I like hockey, to be honest.
Yeah, no, Patrick Waugh, not good. Marty Brodeur, not good. Some obscure goalie in the Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia anywhere, in Slovakia, that we've never heard of, playing 4th League Pro, great numbers. We're all wrong. So
the greatest goalie of the 90s was Byron Dafoe. His save percentage on scoring chances and goals saved above average was the best of all time. I did miss Ben today.
Yeah, Ben brings a certain je ne sais quoi to the podcast. All right, thanks everyone for listening and watching, and you stayed past 16 minutes. Hey, we appreciate you. Like, comment, subscribe. We don't always get to all the comments on YouTube, but we do read as many as we can. Everyone's varying, like, they send some novels, and we do appreciate all of that, because it means
positive, though.
Yeah, it means you're dialed in as we are. Look forward to the EGM Labs app coming out. Next episode, we're talking about Christmas gifts for goalies. So if you have any good ideas or things that you've got in the past that you enjoyed, that you think other goalies should have, just let us know in the comments.
Christmas gift for goalie parents is the 6-pack of Fireball. It's like $14, and every goalie parent will need the 6 shots of Fireball going into all the holiday tournaments.
So I do have one final parting shot. Shout out to the head coach of the Fox Motors 16U Girls Tier 1 AAA team, Coach Scott Grillo. Got me a very nice bottle of gin for passing my boards and starting my business, and I do appreciate that. So good luck to them. They are off this weekend, but good luck to them when they start playing again.
And this was the first week in a while I haven't had random parents come and tell me how good the podcast is. So if anybody sees me at the rink, I love talking hockey. Come up and say hello and tell us how much you love Jamie and Ben's podcast that I'm a passenger on.
I'll see everyone next week. Happy American Thanksgiving, everyone.